back to the Rich Eisen Show. He's a Super Bowl champion, a longtime cornerback in the National Football League, and my compadre on NFL Network. And he's here every single Wednesday here on the Rich Eisen Show, which I do not take for granted. I'm really thrilled every time you come by.
You know, I love being here.
Excellent. Good to see you.
Starting to feel like home.
Have you spoken to Aldon Smith at all? I know you've been close with him.
Not since the suspension has gone down.
So this suspension is basically off of what happened over the summer, correct? It's not like some relapse that happened in the last week or so, from what everybody knows.
From what I've read, yes.
Okay,
so as far as I know.
I mean, so he's suspended a year for violating the substance abuse policy enough that he's gone for a year. What do you think of that? Taking him and sitting him down for a year.
Well, you know, the rules are in place. So if you break the rules, you break the rules. They apply to everyone.
Right.
That's how I always feel about that. But there's always the backstory, and so I'll be interested to see how the backstory plays out as far as the suspension and appeals and everything, because I'm not going to go into too much detail, but from what I've been told, you know, speaking with him, there's a little bit more to the story. So
for the last quote unquote incident that led to this.
Yes, for the last incident, and you know, and in no way is he trying to say that he's a choir boy or anything like that. He knows he has demons, and he's been fighting his demons, and he's putting work in, and he doesn't have an issue standing up for what he's done, but he's somewhat bothered by the way this last incident was the way it played out and the way it was all reported. So. You know, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but once you start your appeal process, you're going to have to tell them exactly what happened, and we'll see how it played out. But it seems to be like there is some wiggle room in there. I want to see what happens.
Well, the thing that's always nerve-wracking about this sort of thing is idle time is the biggest danger in so many different ways, for where he won't have football to fill some of the voids that he's in the past filled in a manner that's caused him to be suspended. For a year.
Well, agreed. I mean, you can look at it in that aspect that the idle time could be an issue, but when you have something that you're fighting, it's there all the time anyway. So whether you're playing the game, because think about it, he was playing the game before, and some of these issues were popping up.
That's true.
So he knows that it's something that's an ongoing day-by-day deal, and that's, he said to me, that's something that he had been dealing with. And he feels strongly that he's dealing with it in a positive way. So we'll see how it all plays out.
I'm going to give you a two-option answer. I normally just ask you a question directly, but I'm going to give you a two-option answer to this question.
Double barrel.
The Cincinnati Bengals are the team that played the first 8 games, or the team that we just saw on Monday Night Football?
The team that played the first 8 games. How many times have you heard me say no one's going undefeated? That's the first thing that comes out of my mouth when you say, who's going undefeated? No one. Why? Because you are playing against a group of professionals each and every week. Everybody's good. The only thing then going harder than going 16-0 is going 0-16, because you're going to find a group of professionals that have a good day, and you're going to run into them on a day that you're having a bad day. And that's what Cincinnati did.
But the Cincinnati frequently has the bad days when the whole country is watching.
It's irrelevant. The whole country, we know this game, the whole country watched those other games as well.
Okay.
And everyone keeps tabs on the other 8 games that they played previously. And that's just a part of it. Some teams match up poorly versus other teams, but regardless, you're going to have a club. If you're the Houston Texans, that's a huge game for you. When you're undefeated, every game it starts to snowball, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger as well. But for the Houston Texans, that's a huge game going in versus Cincinnati, and they played as well.
Yeah,
they played it as such.
Yeah, because they knew that in many ways that's the one way to tie. Obviously, Indianapolis atop this division, that Jacksonville, when they play tomorrow night at 3-6, and even Tennessee at 2-7, has a shot.
How crazy is that?
So with the Dallas Cowboys, Romo coming back, that equals what? What happens with Romo over the next 6 weeks? You think he starts winning games to the point where they have a shot to win the NFC East?
They'll win some games, but this started, and I thought they'd be an 8-8, 9-7, 7-9 club. That's where I think they're going to finish up. Anyway, I don't think it's going to change. I didn't know how it was going to play out, but I don't think it's going to change that much. They do dramatically get better with Romo back out there. But the question is how. I'm still concerned with Romo finishing the season out. So because it's his collarbones and shoulders and all these things are starting to affect him, he's going to get thrown down on his shoulder repeatedly.
What concerns you more, a 35-year-old coming back from a shoulder or a 39-year-old with a foot injury in Denver? Which one do you think is less sustainable for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations?
Well, less sustainable is going to be with Denver. I mean, Peyton Body broke down on him last year, and we saw how he played. He didn't report anything, didn't say anything about it. Interesting how that wasn't a big deal, but it was with with Andrew Luck this year, though. But same thing. The injury
with the thigh.
With the thigh, it wasn't reported. Now that I think about that, but we saw how he played with that injury. We saw how he's been playing this year. So I'm sure there could be some other injuries that haven't been reported. I think it's going to be a difficult thing. If his lower body is not there, he's not the same quarterback, and I think that's going to be a difficult thing to see.
Minnesota 7-2, Arizona 7-2, Carolina 9-0. Are they the three best teams in the NFC?
Yes, I would.
Or you want to throw Green Bay in that mix? Atlanta comes back from its bye this week to take on Indianapolis.
I definitely, Carolina is the best team in the NFC, and then I would go Arizona. So that third, that 3 spot, don't even 3 hole, I could throw Minnesota in there because of the way you know that Zim's going to have them playing solid defense. They can run the ball. They have some skill position guys out on the Autobahn outside the numbers that can run past you and make plays. A quarterback that seems to grow each and every game, stays calm. So they can grind you out and they play physical ball. So I would put them there.
I'm going to take a phone call with you. John in Rochester, New York, has a question for you, Eric Davis.
Okay.
John in Rochester, you're on the Rich Eisen Show. John?
Hey, how you doing, Rich? How you doing, Eric?
Doing well.
Good. Hey, listen, I'm a Seahawks fan, and you being a defensive guy, I just was wanting to get your take on. I understand why their offense is struggling, but I don't understand why all of a sudden their defense is giving up huge plays and not coming up in clutch moments. And the only thing I can figure is that they only have really 2 players that are new. Is it more the defensive coordinator? Is it more they're on the field too long? Or is it more that Kerry Williams just isn't a really good cornerback? Because them are the only 3 differences I could really see from last year.
John may be in our control room because as he said that about Kerry Williams' radio audience and you, John, we just showed Michael Floyd toasting him. So what do you say about that answer?
Maxwell played better within this scheme than Kerry Williams. That's part of it. The other part of it is that you have a group of guys that are still in that secondary trying to get to know where one another are going to be because Maxwell's not there. Okay, Lane's not there. You have guys that were a part of that unit that understood how to play with one another because they're running the same defense. They're not running different calls or anything. That has the part to do with it. And then you have guys watching. I sat down and I watched some of this film yesterday and just watched the coaches tape. And you have guys trying to do more than they normally do. And that starts to happen when you start losing games. Sherm gave up a touchdown because he's trying to do someone else's job. So when you don't trust, and that is a product of not believing that the other guy is going to do his job. So that is, I think that's a total, that's a part of the total breakdown that they're having. It's a player here, it's a player there, trying to do a little something extra, and it's getting him out of position.
What about the idea that the offense is so inefficient at times that the Seattle defense is on the field too much? What about that as an idea?
It may not be a question of them being on the field too much. I think it's more of an issue of them being so ineffective. I've been on units that were that way, where I had some pretty good defenses, but after a while, you start to feel as though not only do you have to stop a team, Rich, and get off the field, but now you have to give them a short field, and it goes over to you have to score.
Does that create a problem within a locker room when that offense is controlled by somebody that just got pizzed?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't create a problem in the locker room because you're going to still, these guys are competitors and they feel like it's their job to be the best unit in the league. That's what they've been. That's what they're accustomed to. That's their standard. But what it does, it creates what I was saying earlier, a belief that you have to do more. And it goes beyond you doing your job. And that's when you start to create that phrase, just do your job, it's big. If you're where you're supposed to be 70 times, if you play 70 snaps, in the middle of being where you're supposed to be 70 times, you will fall into a big play. You'll fall into a play or two. It's hard not to do that.
Are you ready to fulfill your role as the no defense commissioner here in our draftops.com
You know what?
selection?
I'll try, and hopefully Marshall won't, come and overrule me, even though I was correct. But
This is a little awkward now. I knew this had potential for getting awkward. If you're out there sort of wondering what Eric is referring to, when we come back, I'll fill in the blanks, and then Chris and myself will choose a player for our pick 3. And you fantasy players out there should listen, because last week Kirk Cousins was my no defense player of the week, and he wound up balling.
You like that?
Yes, he
I
did.
liked it, no doubt. We're back with fantasy football discussion with Eric Davis in a moment.
Fantasy players.
Good job, D! Good job!
Find out who you should start on offense after we tell you who's not playing defense.
Defense!
It's time for No Defense, presented by DraftOps.com.
Okay, so we identify a game where the fantasy points are going to be aplenty. We choose one player. We use it in our pick 3. You, Eric Davis, here in studio, are the commissioner, where you can reject one of our picks or not. Last week, you rejected Law, you rejected Brockman, but ex post facto, and Marshall Falk came in here and overruled you.
I was overruled.
I know, but Marshall's not coming back in here this week. So you're in.
Overruled incorrectly, by
You
the
do
way.
that.
Overruled incorrectly, but I didn't want to prolong things. And what did I say? I will accept the appeal.
And I won the week.
And I'll move on.
Yeah. You could have chosen Rodgers anyway, without being it. But let's get to this week's no defense.
We got 3 minutes.
Okay, I am going to go first. My no defense game of the week is Indianapolis at Atlanta. If you want any information, the Colts defense this season, 28th in total yards per game and 28th in passing yards per game. Atlanta's defense is last in the NFL in sacks this season. They were supposed to have addressed that problem in the offseason.
They were.
Here comes Matthew Hasselbeck. So I think the points will be aplenty here, and I am going to go Julio Jones. I think Julio Jones is coming off of a bye week. I thought the last month before the bye week he was dinged up. And we saw in the first month of the season when he was fully healthy what he did. I think he's going to tear it up, even though he is going against Vontae Davis. That said, he is my pick in this game, Commissioner.
Accepted.
Thank you very much. Next up is Brockman. You're up.
I'm going out west. The 4-5 Chiefs at the 2-7 Chargers. 2 teams in the top half of the league in scoring. We all know San Diego's 4th in total offense, averaging 26 points a game at home. Kansas City giving up 25 points on the road. San Diego's 28th in scoring defense.
Yep.
More importantly, though, the Chargers give up the 2nd most fantasy points to running backs. So I'm going to take Charkandrick West.
Nice. By the way, Stone Street chose him last week. He was the first to choose him.
Chiefs defense had a few turnovers the past few weeks, though, right?
What,
No one's
Commissioner?
No one's
you know what?
asking you.
I'm going to accept that one because the Chiefs defense also had a big-time game, and they're not going to go back-to-back.
Okay. Chris
So
Law,
now-
you're up.
All right, I'm going the Raiders at Detroit Rock City. 4-5 Raiders, 2-7 Lions. Derek Carr has the 9th-ranked scoring offense going up against the 30th-ranked scoring defense. The Lions are putrid in pretty much every defensive category. 25th in total, 28th in rush, 25th in pass. The Raiders are not much better defensively. Their defense right now, 30th in total, 27th in scoring. Both defenses just really struggling. Also, Martha Firestone Ford did not fire anyone this past week.
That's true.
So I don't think Detroit's going to come ready to play. Therefore, I'm going on the Oakland side of this. Their Detroit rushing D has given up the most rushing touchdowns, 14 this season. Only 2 other teams have double-digit ones. Latavius Murray.
So only,
is my running
one
back.
team is going to play defense in that game?
I think this is an easy week for you, Commissioner.
This accepted.
There
this
you
is
go.
a very easy week. Yeah.
Okay, so the pick
Agreed.
3, no defense, pick players of the week. I chose Julio Jones, Brockman, Charkandrick West, Law, Latavius Murray. And remember, you can sign up for a DraftOps.com pick 3 within seconds. We'll make the rest of our pick 3 picks on Friday's show. All you have to do is visit DraftOps.com to play the Rich Eisen Show pick 3 or one of the several other fun and easy contests that are available. Hockey fans, NHL now is in on the action to play pick 3 by picking 3 goalies. Sounds fun. So many ways to play. Pick, watch, win. DraftOps.com. That's DraftOps.com. See, Commissioner, that was simple, correct?
Easy.
Simple and easy.
I don't have to worry about being overruled. This
Yeah,
time.
because Marshall's not walking through that door this week.
Were you offended at the overruling?
No, not at all. That's a part of the process. We want to make this fair as we possibly can, and that's okay.
Plus, you guys actually came in the front door this week. You didn't try and sneak something in.
Yeah.
We don't have research doing our picks for us.
Yeah.
You always come in the back door.
No, I don't. I come in the front door, sir, because the name of the show is The Rich Eisen Show.
This is true.
Thank you, Aaron.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.